So we all know that NBA players make just a ton of money now. And even as we see players make 40, 50, 60 million dollars a year, an NBA team has to strategize their cap space as a whole. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about every team's highest paid player and going into it if they're worth this massive contract or not. We'll also be talking about how they got this contract. Was it smart at the time, or were they pressured to bringing back one of their good players? So if you guys enjoyed these videos, I'd appreciate it if you drop a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts on these contracts in the comments below. Let's get into it. So we're going to start off with Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. Ja's rookie extension is going to kick in next year, where he's going to be making $34 million, the highest paid player on the Grizzlies. He got this contract when he was extension eligible in the 2022 offseason, and this is exactly what you want to do when you're building a franchise. Lock up your top guy for the next 5 years. He's the 8th highest paid point guard in the NBA, and you can 100% make an argument that he's better than that overall at the point guard position. He'll be going into his age 24 season. Yes, he will be suspended for the first quarter of the year for the off-the-court issues, but when Ja is on the floor, he's one of the best point guards in the league. Back-to-back seasons scoring above 26 points. He averaged a career high in assists last year in 61 games at 8.1 assists a night. He's also led the Grizzlies to playoff appearances in the last 2 years, and it's crazy. So when Ja Morant is at the last year of this contract at $44 million. That's not even going to be that much in the NBA at that time, which is just wild to think about. We'll go over to Dallas now and talk about Luka Doncic, who's going to be making $40 million in the 2024 season. He will be the 3rd highest paid point guard in the league, and you can make an argument that he should be the highest paid point guard in the league for what he gives you on every given night. This is going to be year 2 of his rookie max extension. It'll be $40 million in 2024, $43 in 25, $45 in 26. Then he'll have a player option in 2027 for $48 million. He's the 16th highest paid player in the NBA, and on anybody's top 10 list, he's in there. You can also make a great argument that he's a top 5 player in the NBA. And yes, Luka has had some injury concerns over the last few years, but he has played over 60 games in every single year of his career. 66 games in 2023, 65 in 2022, and 66 in 2021. It's crazy. He's also going into his age 24 season. This will be his 6th year in the NBA, which is also kind of crazy that Luka's already going to be playing 6 years at the NBA. Time is just flying by. He averaged a career high in points last year at 32 a night, also gave you 8 assists and 8.5 rebounds. This contract is 100% justified, as he should be the highest paid player on the Mavericks as long as he's on the team. For the Pelicans, it's our first player in this video where it's hard to justify him being the top paid player on the team, and that's CJ McCollum. Now, I can't knock on the Pelicans for McCollum being the highest paid player on the team because they didn't give him the contract. This was from a trade back in the trade deadline of 2022, where McCollum was traded from Portland to New Orleans, which was a deal that sent Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and others to the Blazers, with McCollum coming back to New Orleans. McCollum will be making $35 million in 2024, and he does have a 2-year extension tagged on top of that, while he'll be making $33 million in 2025, so 2 less mil than what he's making in 2024, and he'll be making $30 million in 2026. But yeah, McCollum is paid more than Zion Williamson, than Brandon Ingram, and he's going into his age 32 season, and we might see a little bit of regression out of McCollum. Now, we haven't seen McCollum average below 20 points per game since 2015, and he did shoot 38% from 3 last year on 7 attempts a night, and he's a good veteran to have, and it's not one of the worst contracts in the world by any means, so it's not the worst thing that he's going to be their top paid player in 2024. For the Houston Rockets, it's a player that they signed a few weeks ago, and that's Fred VanVleet. He will be the 14th highest paid player in all of basketball next season, making $40 million in 2024. He'll also be making $42 million in 2025, and there is a club option for $44 million in 2026, which looks like is going to definitely be declined, unless Fred VanVleet turns into Luka Doncic or Steph Curry in the next 2 years. And paying $40 million is a lot for Fred VanVleet, but in my opinion, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's only 2 years guaranteed money, so yeah, this year, paying $40 million for him, not a bad thing at all whatsoever. His age 30 season, he's going to be a good veteran point guard for this young Rockets roster. He'll be able to buy in under Ime Udoka's system. Good defender, good passer, solid 3-point shooter. It's what the Rockets need at the moment. And by the time a Jalen Green or Alperen Sengun or Jabari Smith Jr. contract extension kicks in, Fred VanVleet will already be gone out of Houston, or at least that contract will expire. So in the long term, this isn't a bad deal to have Fred VanVleet under, because in the NBA, you have to spend your money somewhere, and the Rockets had $60+ million in cap space. So you know what? I like this contract for Fred VanVleet more than I like them spending $20 million a year on Dillon Brooks. We have Keldon Johnson coming in here as the highest paid player on the Spurs for 2024, and this is a fantastic contract in my opinion. It's a front-loaded contract, so he's going to be paying his highest amount in 2024. This was his rookie rookie extension. It was just 4 years, $74 million. For an underrated player like Keldon Johnson, this was a steal. He'll be making $20 million in 2024. Then it goes down to $19 million in 2025, $17.5 million in 2026, and then $17.5 million again in 2027, which in this day and age where players are making $40 million plus a year like it's nothing, $17.5 million for Keldon Johnson in his age 27 season will be an absolute bargain. Keldon Johnson will be the 75th highest paid player in the league next year, and he's been getting better and better since he's entered the league. He averaged 9 points in his rookie year, 13 points in year 2, 17 points in year 3, and then last year in his 4th season, he averaged 22 points on 45% shooting. He shot 33% from 3, and it sometimes can be a really good defender. Now, he does have his lapse. I'm not saying he's perfect on the defensive end, but he's going to be a perfect contract and complementary piece to Wemby over time. And the Spurs have insane cap flexibility when your highest paid player is only making $20 million a year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be the highest paid player on the Thunder next year. This will be his 2nd year under the rookie extension, so he's going to be making $33 million for the OKC Thunder. He'll be the 12th highest paid point guard in the NBA, which is just insane value because you could justify him being a top 3 paid point guard in the NBA. And he's the NBA's 34th highest paid player in the league. Like I said, $33 million in 2024. Then it only goes up to $40 million over the next 4 years, which is great value getting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with that contract into his age 28 season. And Shai proved last year why he's the building block and the franchise cornerstone for the OKC Thunder, averaging 31 points, 5.5 assists, 5 rebounds a night as well, giving you 1.6 steals, overall shooting 51% from the field, 34% from 3, and 90% from the line. And oh yeah, he gets to the line 11 times a night, which is just what you want from your franchise player and your #1 scoring option. And we all know how great the OKC Thunder's cap flexibility is at the moment, and their draft capital, and their young core, and it's great that it's being led by one of the best young players in the NBA because Shai is still only 25 years old. When I was researching the Timberwolves cap sheet, I thought for sure their highest paid player was going to be Karl-Anthony Towns next year. And while he will be the highest paid player eventually, it's not going to be in 2024. That player is Rudy Gobert, who's going to be making $41 million. He'll be the 3rd highest paid center in the NBA behind Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. He'll be the NBA's 13th highest paid player, and he's guaranteed $41 million in 2024. $43 million in 2025, and has a $46 million player option in 2026. Now, like I mentioned with the Pelicans before with CJ McCollum, I can't fault the Timberwolves for this contract because they didn't give it to him. That was the Utah Jazz back in December of 2020. But in July of 2022, the Timberwolves did trade for Gobert, knowing that contract, and they gave up a lot. That included Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Leandro Bolmaro, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, a future first-round pick in 2023 that resulted in Keontae George, who's looked like a stud in the Summer League, and then a plethora of first-round picks over the next 6 seasons. The year 1 experiment with Rudy Gobert really didn't go as planned for the Timberwolves, as he didn't gel perfectly next to Karl-Anthony Towns in that front court, and did get into a heated altercation at the end of the season with Kyle Anderson, one of the team's top veterans. So it can only go up from here with the Timberwolves and Rudy Gobert in 2024, and let's hope it could be somewhat justifiable paying Rudy Gobert 30% of the team's total cap space. I just mentioned Nikola Jokic being one of the highest paid centers in the NBA just a player ago, and yeah, he's the highest paid center in the NBA, and he's the NBA's 3rd highest paid player, making $47.5 million in 2024, under contract for the next 5 seasons with a player option in 2028 worth $62 million, which is just kind of wild. And yeah, this contract is completely justifiable. They drafted Jokic in the 2nd round back in the 2014 draft, and they developed him over the last decade to being one of the best, and you could say the best player in the NBA. Jokic was just the finals MVP for the Denver Nuggets. He's won 2 out of the last 3 NBA total MVP awards, and he averaged 24 points, 10 assists, and 12 rebounds in the 2023 season. He's one of the league's most efficient players. And yeah, Jokic is only going to his age 28 season, so this contract is going to age like fine wine, and you could probably make an argument that you would be fine paying Nikola Jokic $80 million eventually. So $62 million in 2028 with the salary cap going up is honestly not a bad deal. The Jazz's highest paid player in 2024 is going to be a guy that they traded for couple months ago, and that is John Collins. John Collins will be going into his age 26 season, and he'll be making $25 million for the Jazz in 2024. That will go up slightly in 2025, worth $26 million, and then he has a player option in 2026, worth $26 million as well, that he's most likely going to pick up when that time comes. He's the NBA's 13th highest paid power forward in the league, and yes, that contract has not aged well since Atlanta gave it to him in the 2021 offseason, because a few years later, in July of 2023, he was traded for Rudy Gay and a second-round pick, which is just kind of crazy. Because after the 2020 season, which was cut short due to COVID, in which he played 41 games, he did average 21 points, 10 rebounds a night, shooting 58% from the field and 40% from three. I thought for sure John Collins was a player that the Atlanta Hawks could build around long term, and it really didn't work out at all. He peaked in 2020 with his scoring, averaging 17 points in 2021, 16 in 2022, and just 13 points a game in 2023, and he was definitely not going to be in the Hawks' future or in their long-term plans, so he was shipped off to Utah. And paying a 26-year-old $25 million is not the worst thing in the world, especially with John Collins' offensive potential. I'm just intrigued on how it's going to work out in Utah next year, and Lauri Markkanen is due for a contract extension next year, so Collins probably won't be the highest paid player on the Jazz for much longer. For now, Damian Lillard, who's still on the Portland Trail Blazers, is their highest paid player. He's the NBA's 8th highest paid player overall. He's the second highest paid point guard in the NBA. He'll be making $45 million in 2024. And then there's a kicker to this, because Dame did sign a 2-year extension a little bit ago, where in 2026, he's going to be making $58 million. And then in 2027, he has a player option worth $63 million. So comparing this to the Jokic contract, where Jokic is going to be making $60+ million in his age 32 season, it's like, you know what? That could be justifiable. Dame is going to be making $63 million in his age 36 season, which is going to be hard to justify because Dame has been regressing on the defensive end, and he's still one of the league's best offensive players, but he's going to have to stay as one of the league's best offensive players over the next 5 years to be worth that contract, being $60+ million. And he did have an insane year last year in 58 games, averaging 32 points a night. We saw that insane scoring performance he had where he dropped 70+. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried about this contract and how it's going to age over the next couple of years. Moving over to Los Angeles with the LA Lakers, LeBron James is going to be their highest paid player next season. He's the NBA's 3rd highest paid player, coming in at a $47.5 million contract for 2024. He's the top paid power forward in the NBA, in which he played majority of his minutes in the 2023 season. And yeah, LeBron's been signing these 1+1 contracts for a while now. He did sign an extension with the Lakers, so he wasn't able to be traded in the 2024 season, and the season definitely worked out for the Lakers, making it to the Western Conference Finals. LeBron does have a $51 million player option in 2025 that I assume he would opt out of and then maybe sign another 1+1 because, hey, LeBron may want to retire after this season. He may want to sign elsewhere to play with his son, Bronny. And yeah, as long as you have LeBron James on your team and he's still playing at this high of level, I'm fine making him the highest paid player in the NBA each and every year. It's funny, for the Clippers, Paul George is their highest paid player, and he edges out Kawhi Leonard as the team's top paid player by less than $500,000. Paul George will be making $45 million in 2024. He has a $48 million player option in 2025, so this could be his last year on the Clippers. He may want to opt out of his deal and get more guaranteed money over the next 4 or so years. He's the league's 2nd highest paid shooting guard. He's the 7th highest paid player in the NBA overall. And this is a fine contract for Paul George when he can stay healthy. Now, I don't know if I would pay Paul George $40+ million in a longer term deal when you're getting into his age 36, 37, 38 season with his injury concerns and worrying about how his game is going to possibly age as well. And will that contract come back and bite you if you're giving him about 30% of your team's overall cap space? Steph Curry will be the NBA's highest paid player in 2024, top player on the Warriors, obviously the top point guard being paid in the NBA. He'll be making $51.9 million. That will go up to $55 million in 2025 and $59 million in 2026 when he's going into his age 37 season. Now this contract is completely justified. Steph Curry is your best player in franchise history. He's one of the best players and point guards of all time. You want to make him the happiest man in the NBA and keep paying him 38% of your team's total cap space, because it doesn't look like he's slowing down either at all. He had a fantastic year for the Warriors in 2023 in his age 34 season, averaging just below 30 points a night, shot 49% from the field, 42% from 3 on 11 attempts a night. That's just vintage Steph Curry. Also shot 91% from the line, as he still remains as one of the league's best free throw shooters. He also gave you 6 rebounds and 6 assists a night, and like I said, this contract is completely justified, and I would be paying him even more if I could over the next 3 years. De'Aaron Fox will be the highest paid player on the Kings next season, making $32.5 million in his age 26 season. This was still his rookie extension that he got back in the 2020 offseason that kicked in during the 2022 season. He'll be making $34 million in 2025, $37 million in 2026, and then will be eligible for a possible supermax in his age 29 season over in 2026. And this is a great contract for De'Aaron Fox right now, who had the best year of his career in 2023, scoring 25 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, and led the Sacramento Kings as their best player to their first playoff appearance in over 20 years. The Phoenix Suns will have 3 max players under contract next year, but Kevin Durant will be the highest paid player out of the 3. He's actually the NBA's second highest paid player, making $46.4 million in 2024. He's the highest paid small forward in the league. He'll be making just under $50 million in 2025 and $53 million in 2026 in his age 37 season. Now, Kevin Durant did get this in an extension with the Brooklyn Nets a few years ago, and he only played 8 games for the Phoenix Suns last year in the regular season, but in those 8 games, he did average 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists, and his efficiency was just video game-like. 57% from the field, 53% from 3, and 83% from the line. Kevin Durant is never going to play 70-plus games in a regular season, but if he can play 55-plus for you and give you just what Kevin Durant can give you on any given night, scoring 25-plus points on elite efficiency, this contract is 100% justified, and over the next 3 years, you're fine paying him $45 million plus, as long as he can be healthy for you in the playoffs. Let's talk about the reigning Eastern Conference champions, and Jimmy Butler will be their highest paid player in 2024. Jimmy's going to be making just above $45 million. He'll be the 11th highest paid player in the NBA, the 3rd highest paid small forward. He's going to be making $48 million guaranteed in 2025, and then that goes up to a $52 million player option in 2026 in his age 36 season. Jimmy Butler is just an absolute floor raiser, and he brought the Heat to the NBA Finals as an 8 seed. He deserves an infinite amount of money to the city of Miami, and he is 100% worth his contract. Someone that isn't worth their current contract, and that's Gordon Hayward of the Charlotte Hornets. He'll be their highest paid player going into the 2024 season, making $31.5 million. It is an expiring contract, so LaMelo Ball will take that mantle in 2025. And Gordon Hayward actually opted out of a $30+ million player option with the Celtics in the offseason of 2020. Everybody was like, whoa, he really turned down that much money. Well, he got a good amount guaranteed from the Charlotte Hornets. And you know what? In his first year in Charlotte, he was actually pretty good. 19.5 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 47% from the field, was a nice mentor for LaMelo Ball too, but then it just went downhill since then, averaging 16 points in year 2 in Charlotte, 14.7 in year 3, and he has yet to play above 55 games in his 3 years in Charlotte. Trae Young will be the highest paid player on the Hawks in 2024, making $40 million. It's the 3rd highest paid point guard contract in the league, 16th overall in the NBA. He got that same rookie extension that Luka Doncic got, and he made All-NBA 3rd team in 2022, so did that $207 million trigger, and he'll be making $43 million in 2025, $46 million in 2026, and then a $48 million option in 2027. Like him or not, Trae Young is definitely worth this money, as he's one of the better point guards in the NBA, and he's still only 24 years old. Remember Jonathan Isaac? Well, yeah, he's going to be the highest paid player on the Orlando Magic in 2024, making $17.5 million. The Magic's highest paid player is actually the 92nd highest paid player in the NBA, with Isaac making that amount of money, and yeah, Jonathan Isaac hasn't really had a full season since 2020, the bubble year, when he really broke out, especially on the defensive end, was also a positive 3-point shooter, and then tore his ACL in the bubble, did not play at all in 2021 or in 2022, and then played in just 11 games in 2023. It was a really small sample size in those 11 games too, only playing 11 minutes a night. I really hope he can be fully healthy for the 2024 season, so we could see him back to being one of the better all-around defenders in the NBA. And for the first time in forever, Bradley Beal will not be the highest paid player on the Washington Wizards next year, since he's now in Phoenix, so that will go to Jordan Poole, making $27.5 million. Poole is the 8th highest paid shooting guard in the NBA. He'll be making $29.5 million in 2025, just under $32 million in 2026, and then $34 million fully guaranteed in 2027. That is fine for the Washington Wizards right now, as they're going into a rebuild after moving on from Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis in the offseason. Jordan Poole's point per game totals have gone up and up each and every year since he entered the league. 9 points as a rookie, 12 points as a sophomore, 18.5 in year 3 in 2022, 20 points per game last year, and there is a possibility that Jordan Poole could average 25 plus points per game for the Washington Wizards in 2024. The highest paid player on the Indiana Pacers next year I thought was going to be Miles Turner, but I was like, oh wait, no, it's Bruce Brown, who got a 2-year deal from the Indiana Pacers in the offseason. It's going to be $22 million in 2024. Now, year 2 of that contract is a club option, so this is theoretically a 1-year deal, and there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal in the NBA. Indiana is not a big market team, and I'm sure they were going up against other teams that were a more desirable location to play in, so they had to pay Bruce Brown a little bit more money. But shout out to Bruce Brown getting $22 million next year for being one of the better role players in the NBA and help winning the Denver Nuggets to a championship as their top role guy. And if Bruce Brown plays bad next year, like I said, there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal, so they can get out of it in 2025. Sometimes a large contract can really underrate a player. Now, Zach LaVine is the highest paid player on the Bulls, 16th highest paid player in the NBA, making $40 million in his age 28 season next year. And Zach LaVine, I think, is an underrated player in this league because, yes, he had some injury history from 2017 to 2021, and he also got COVID as well in that 2021 season. But last year for the Chicago Bulls, he played 77 games. Yeah, 77. He averaged 25 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and his efficiency was off the charts, shooting 48% from the field, 37% from 3, and 85% from the line. He's one of the best offensive players in the NBA, and if he could stay healthy and play 70 plus games a year, I think that this contract is 100% justified. But in 2027, he'll be making $48 million with a player option. That will be a little bit high at that time, but he'll only be 31 years old, so he could still be in his prime, putting up these insane shooting numbers. And with the salary cap going up and up each year, I'm fine with it, as it's only 28% of the team's total cap. Darius Garland just edges out Donovan Mitchell as the highest paid player on the Cleveland Cavaliers. This will be the first year of his rookie max extension, making $34 million in 2024, and then he has 5 more guaranteed years, and that contract will go up to $44.8 million in 2028. But Darius Garland is 100% worth this contract. He's gotten better and better each year. He did average roughly the same points per game from year 3 to year 4, but you could really see that efficiency go up, especially from that 3-point line where he shot 38% in year 3, and he shot 41% from 3 last year on 6 attempts a night. He's one of the league's best shooters overall, as one of the top young players at his position. Giannis Antetokounmpo is coming in as the highest paid player on the Milwaukee Bucks. No surprise here. He's actually the 8th highest paid player in the NBA, which is kind of crazy because you'd think he'd be in that top 5, and it was really the extension he signed a couple years ago, and then the salary cap went up, and somebody like Damian Lillard really took advantage of that, getting a new extension to kick in. As Giannis has yet to sign a new extension, he will be extension eligible next offseason for the Milwaukee Bucks, and he can get that done. But yeah, Giannis is one of probably 5 guys in the NBA that you're fine paying an infinite amount of money to. Would you have guessed that Bojan Bogdanovic is the highest paid player on the Detroit Pistons? Well, you would have been right. The 75th highest paid player in the NBA is the top moneymaker on the Detroit Pistons, making $20 million in 2024. He does have a partial guaranteed contract in 2025 worth $19 million. But until we see a Cade Cunningham extension, he will be the highest paid player on the Detroit Pistons. He did average 21 points per game for them last year, shot 48% from the field, 41% from 3. And in a vacuum, this contract is 100% worth it. Let's move over to the Big Apple now, and we got Julius Randle as the highest paid player on the New York Knicks. Is he the best player? No, that would be Jalen Brunson. But Randle honestly isn't making too much money either for an all-NBA caliber power forward, making $25.5 million in 2024. And yeah, he was all-NBA third team last year at the forward position, and he's the 8th highest paid power forward in the league and the 48th highest paid player overall in the NBA. This is actually a very good contract. It takes him to his age 31 season where he is a $29 million player option, which if he's playing at this pace, will definitely opt out of. You could say he has the worst contract in the NBA, and that's Ben Simmons coming in as the highest paid player on the Brooklyn Nets. He'll be making $37.8 million in 2024 and has also a $40 million guaranteed contract in 2025. Now, at the time when the Philadelphia 76ers gave him that rookie extension, it was worth it. It was a no-brainer at the time. But now since Ben Simmons' play has just diminished so much and he's rarely healthy and you can actually see him on the floor, this is one of the worst contracts and possibly the worst contract in the NBA, making up 28% of your team's total cap space for somebody that averaged 7 points a night last year and only played in 42 games. As of now, while he's still on the team in his final year in Toronto, Pascal Siakam is the highest paid player on the Raptors. He's the NBA's 20th highest paid player overall, making $37.8 million in 2024. So we could 100% see a Siakam extension any day now, and he could be making even more money. And while $37.8 million is a lot, I think it's worth it. 24 points per game last year, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. He played 37 minutes a night in 71 games. He was out there for the Toronto Raptors, and I think he's actually become kind of underrated throughout the NBA, maybe since the Raptors haven't been good in a little bit. I was actually kind of shocked when I found out that Kristaps Porzingis will be the highest paid player for the Boston Celtics next year, making $36 million. Because Jason Tatum will be making $32.5 million, and Jaylen Brown will be making $31.8 million. So yeah, KP is the top paid guy on the Celtics. He did sign a 2-year extension for 2025 and 2026, in which he'll be making less money, and that title will go to Jason Tatum. But for 2024, that top paid guy is KP. And I think it's worth it because he played in 65 games last year, which was his highest since 2017. And he gave the Wizards 23 points, 8.5 rebounds, 1.5 blocks a night, shot 49% from the field, 38% from 3, and 85% from the line. He was one of the league's better power forwards overall, and he's the NBA's 24th highest paid player. And lastly, for the Philadelphia 76ers, we have the second highest paid player at the center position, the third highest paid player in the NBA as a whole, and that's Joel Embiid. Embiid will be making $47.6 million next year. That will go up to $51 million in 2025, $55 million in 2026, and he has a $59 million player option in 2027 in his age 32 season. The 76ers aren't the 76ers without Joel Embiid. He has been the heart and soul of this team over the last 7 years. He won the scoring title in 2022 and in 2023, and he was obviously the NBA's MVP last year. And paying the league's best player $47.5 million is 100% valid. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Let me know if any of these contracts surprised you in the comments below, and just let me know your thoughts down there. Also subscribe if you are not already, and thank you all for watching. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.